Hello, welcome to part 7 of my multi-part series on cognitive errors and behavioral biases. If you want to check out parts 1 through 6, you can find them here. This is the last of the series in terms of me listing all of these behavioral mistakes that we make. Again, we all do these things. They all negatively affect our ability to forecast and make predictions. I will have a part 8 where I talk about ways that we can overcome these tendencies to hopefully get better at our predictions and our forecasting. Let's look at a few examples. Anchoring bias, that is the tendency to focus on the first piece of information given, and this is true even when that piece of information is completely irrelevant to the task at hand. For example, if I asked you to, in your head, think about a 2-digit number, that 2-digit number could range from 11 to 99. The number you pick will have an effect on a subsequent question where I say, how much is something worth? Say, a plate or something like that. That the higher the number you picked, the higher value you will give to the item, and the lower the number you pick, the lower the value you will assign to that item, even though this 2-digit number that you arbitrarily picked is completely irrelevant to the valuation at hand. It's about that starting point. It's that first piece of information you're given. And in terms of investing, you think about stocks, you think about the price you paid for an asset, you think about the assets, 52-week high, the assets 52-week low, or its IPO price. All of these things are pretty irrelevant in terms of what its current value is. You need to look at all pieces of information, what has changed since these things, and evaluate it irrespective of these anchored points. Gratification bias, simply this is the fact that we tend to value things, good things, now versus waiting for a good thing. This is true in terms of savings. You're more likely to forego savings so you purchase things now. If I asked you, would you rather have $150 today or $160 in 4 weeks? Most people would pick $150. In terms of investments, this is also makes us more short-term in nature. Stocks are long-term investments, but because of this gratification bias, we're more likely to make short-term trading decisions, especially in the face of losses that are not productive in terms of our long-term wealth. They have negative consequences. This conjunction fallacy, I'll let you read this example here. It's a real example, but the idea here is that if you have two separate events, you have event A can happen or event B can happen, there's a probability associated with them. The chances of A happening or B happening is greater than them both happening together. Just mathematically, it's not possible for it to be more likely that both things are true than either one in isolation. And yet, in this particular example, we're given a choice, which is more probable, that Linda is a bank teller or Linda is a bank teller and an activist in the feminist movement, despite the fact that it's impossible mathematically for the latter to be true. 88% of the people in this study chose that as being more probable. This can affect your investments in terms of thinking about, investment opportunities for companies that have multiple investment opportunities. You might think the probability of all these things happening are greater than another investment where they only have one opportunity for that one thing to happen. Again, these mathematically cannot be true. And finally, optimism bias. This is just the tendency for you to think that positive things will happen to you and negative things won't in probabilities that are irrational, right? So you think the chances of good things happening are much higher than they actually are. You think chances of negative things happening, you think they're much less than they actually are. You're overestimating your own abilities. You're overestimating probabilities. You're simply just being way too optimistic about the future. And finally, these are all the errors and biases that we have. Again, you need to do more than just know about them. You need to find a way to turn off your fast thinking system 1 brain. You need to find ways to turn on your slow thinking system 2 brain in order to mitigate these biases, in order to counteract these biases. I will follow up with another short video where I try to walk you through ways that you might do this. Thanks so much for listening.